Welcome, everybody, to another episode of Shadows Podcast. I'm your host, Tripp Bodenheimer. We're going to go with a little different change of pace today than what we've typically been doing here on the podcast. Batista is not with me. I'm flying solo today, and I actually have no guest on the show. It's going to be all me for this episode, and got something very special that I want to share with everybody. But before I get started with that, I want to thank everybody. Thank everyone out there who's been listening, who's been supporting the podcast. Check us out on Facebook if you haven't already. Go over there, give us a like at The Shadows Podcast, and then follow us on Instagram on _shadows_podcast. And go over there, show us your support. Instagram page, we've got some additional content, bonus content that we're posting. Shantae McMillan was gracious enough to give us a core workout that we've posted. So we got some pretty cool stuff on there to keep up to date with. And also, we've got some very special guests coming up. We've got some recorded episodes that we're going to start pumping out. We've got some guests scheduled this upcoming week that we're going to be recording. So just stay tuned. Monday is going to be our drop day. We're aiming for every other Monday to have an episode. Give us feedback, give us support, let us know how we're doing. Today's episode is going to be a little bit different. Up to this point, we've had chronicle episodes where we've taken individuals and we've started at the beginning and worked our way up to where they are at this point in their life with all the trials and tribulations that they've had. Today's episode is going to be a little bit different because it's going to focus on tragedy and triumph. And we're going to have some episodes like this where we talk about the struggles we've been through, but how we overcame them and persevered through. Today's going to be the first of those. And yes, I'm going to be on here talking. I don't have a guest because today is special to me. Today would have been the 37th birthday of my sister, Margaret Myers Bodenheimer. And if you knew Myers, she was a truly unique individual, had so much to give to this world, but unfortunately she was taken from us way too soon. So today I'm going to talk about the struggles I went through and how I overcame them. And this is going to be my story. And this is a good platform for it. And this is kind of the concept of what Shadows Podcast was built around, with stories like this, to where somebody out there, just one person, could be listening and be going through something or feeling the same emotion. And maybe we could post something out there that they could hear and it could motivate them. It could inspire them. It could help them out a little bit. I'm going to get started by first telling you about my family. I'm going to paint a picture of my family growing up. There was my mom, Susan. She was the disciplinarian of the household. She's the one that kind of kept us in check. If I brought home a bad grade, if I did something wrong, she was the last person on the face of the earth that I wanted to confront. She was the glue that held our family together. Then I also have my father, Charlie. He was a successful attorney. He went to the University of North Carolina. He graduated law school from Campbell. He was in the Navy. He was an officer in the Navy. He had a very successful career. And then there was my sisters, my oldest, Kelly. She's 10 years older than me. And then we have my youngest sister, Myers, who I've already mentioned. We were 18 months apart. Myers was that one constant that I could always talk to, could always go to. We were living in Lumberton, North Carolina, and we lived a good life. I'm not going to lie, looking back, maybe I was a little spoiled. Their number one priority in life was making sure their kids lived a good life and were happy and succeeded in school. I did just like any kid. Went out and played with my friends all day, came back home, watched TV, did my homework, all that good stuff. I had a really close relationship with my parents. And my dad, I was extremely close with. My dad was not just a dad, he was a friend. He would come up in my room and play video games with me. There's a video I have of Christmas morning, and I got one of those little table air hockey sets, and he came up to my room and would play that with me. And he made time for myself. And then he would go over to my sister's room. And if she had an easy bake oven, or I know I'm telling my age, easy bake oven or Barbies or something, but he would always spend time with us, and things that interest us were important to him. And I would watch sporting events. My dad and I, we bonded over wrestling, pro wrestling. I still follow wrestling to this day because I have that connective thread with my dad. I couldn't have asked for a better father. Could not have asked for a better role model in my life for how he was with us, how he was as a dad. And I remember it was September, early October of 1992. And I woke up. It was a Saturday morning, and I wanted to do just like any kid did it in 1992 on a Saturday morning. You eat cereal, you watch cartoons, you go play with your friends. And I got up, I went downstairs, and my parents were down there, and they said, we need to have a little family meeting. Well, my mother told me there's going to be a little change of plans with how our lives are currently set up. We are going to be making a move to Charleston, South Carolina. As a 10-year-old kid, I did not want to make that move. I did not want to leave my friends. I didn't want to pack up. I was resistant. Myers wasn't totally happy with it, but she was a lot more open to it than I was. But I was very resistant to change, especially the fact I'm leaving all my friends and going to a brand new school. So we make the trip to Charleston a couple of times. We visit. We settle on Mount Pleasant, which is beautiful. It was just an amazing area. And slowly I started to buy into it. I was still upset about leaving my friends, but we made this move very abruptly. It was just quick. We were gone within a couple of weeks. Get to our new house, and I'm struggling fitting in at school. There was, I was getting bullied. I was the new kid at school. It's so weird how that works out, but I was the outsider, and I struggled to fit in. Well, I would come home upset, really, really upset. And my dad would come home and have these conversations with me. He would sit down on my bed. He would sit me down on the steps. I remember sitting on our stairwell at the house and having these talks with him. And I was telling him how frustrated I was and how upset I was. And it's really tough for a 10-year-old kid getting bullied. And he's like, stand up for yourself, defend yourself. You can't let people walk all over you in life. You can't do that. But he wasn't yelling. He was just talking to me. We're just having a conversation. He wasn't disappointed or anything like that. And that's how he was. He never raised his voice. He never screamed at me. He never did it. It's just he made time out of his day to talk. And that was so important. He's never going to know how much those words meant to me. So my dad would come home. He would get out of his suit. He would throw on some lounging clothes, and he would go upstairs and he would automatically start spending time with my sister and myself. And he would do that for a while. If I was outside playing basketball, he would play basketball with me. If I was jumping on the trampoline, he would jump on the trampoline. He just was always doing whatever we were doing. He was like a big kid. One of the things we like to do is ride bikes, and we go out to the waterway out by our house. And we were riding bikes one day, and I was going a little bit faster than him and Myers. And my mom was back home doing dinner, and he falls off his bike. I turn around and, I was like, are you okay? And he's like, yeah, I'm fine. He was catching his breath, and he pulls this brown bag out of his pocket, and he starts breathing in this brown bag. And I could still hear the noise. I could still see him doing it. I said, are you okay? He's like, yeah. Don't tell your mom about this. Just leave this between you and I. 10 years old. He's my best friend. I'm like, absolutely. So we play basketball. He was winded. He pulled out his bag. He started breathing in it. And I was like, Dad, are you okay? He's like, hey, don't tell your mom about this. Just leave this between you and I. Okay. Yep. Gotcha. This happened maybe 3 or 4 more times. Constantly, I would catch him breathing in a bag. It became like our little secret. He's like, I don't want your mom to yell at me. Just don't say nothing. Long story short, fast forward, it was around the 13th of June, 1993. And it was a Sunday. Well, my baseball team had a pool party that afternoon. I woke up all excited about it. And then my mom comes rushing in the house with my dad. And she lays him down on the bed. They start pulling off layers of clothing, putting cold rags on him. It appeared like he had a heat stroke. And I was really confused. She's like, yeah, I think he had a heat stroke, mowing the yard. And he seemed like he was fine. He was responsive. He was just kind of like, I just got to cool down. I didn't think much of it, but he didn't go to the pool party. I told you we like watching wrestling together. That was like our thing. Well, there was a pay-per-view that night, and we were supposed to watch it. He and I, that was like a big thing for us. And we were supposed to go upstairs and watch it. And he couldn't even get upstairs. So I had to run downstairs after every single match and tell him who was winning. And I was like, this doesn't feel right. Well, his neck, he started getting really red spots under his neck. And I would ask him about it. I'm like, yeah, why's your neck so red? And he's like, oh, it's razor burn. It's just razor burn. And at this point, I'm 11. And I wasn't thinking, anything was out of the ordinary. I was like, I don't shave. Okay. Maybe a thing. Well, June 23rd, 1993. So about 10 days later, I am walking through the house. It's about, I don't know, 7 o'clock at night. And I go walking through the living room. My mom's back in the bedroom. My dad was sitting down on the couch watching television. He grabbed me by the arm, just kind of gently grabbed me by the arm. I was like, hey, come here real quick. He said, I want to tell you something. If anything happens to me, I want you to take care of your mom, Myers and Kelly. Just make sure they're taken care of. And I was like, okay, yeah. But in the back of my mind, I'm like, you're going to be here. So sure, Dad. He hugged me, gave me a really big hug. He gave me a kiss and he's like, I love you. Just remember that I love you. I said, I love you too. And I went upstairs and I didn't think twice about that conversation. I just went upstairs. We had this playroom at one end of our house and I was up there talking to my sister. We were in there, I was playing video games or something. And we heard this thud. This is maybe like an hour later. We heard like this thud. Myers is like, ooh, I'm gonna go check and see what that was. And it sounded like maybe my mom had dropped something in the kitchen, maybe like a pan had fallen or something. And I was like, no, I'm not. She's like, come on downstairs with me. No, I'm not doing that. Well, Myers goes downstairs and she peeks at the end of the stairwell and looks over and she starts screaming. And apparently what happened is my dad was watching television. He stood up and he had a massive heart attack. He called out my mom's name and he fell and he hit his head on the coffee table and just had a heart attack right in front of her. So Myers is like, it's Dad. I rush down the stairs. I see him there. I run over and it's just like everything changed from that moment forward. And my mom was freaking out. The EMTs get there. Like it seemed like they were there in minutes. It's such a blur. But I just remember being back in the bedroom. My mom closed the door and the EMTs loaded him onto the ambulance. And I remember sitting there thinking, my life would never be normal ever again. This has forever changed my life. My life is different than everybody else I know right now. But my dad was invincible. He was my dad. He was a real life superhero to me. And I'm like, he's going to be fine. He's going to get through this. I wake up the next morning. I went to bed thinking this will be a dream. I'll wake up. Nope. Woke up, my sister, I believe Kelly, had driven from North Carolina and somebody came and got us and took us to Roper Hospital. And I can still smell Roper Hospital. I can still see it. I can tell you exactly where the waiting room was, everything about it. I remember going back to see my dad and it was hard for me to look at, to see, this is my father. This is my dad right here. This is my superhero. My mom had basically told my sister Kelly to take care of Myers and I. So we ended up going to Bladenboro, North Carolina, and we lived with Kelly for a little bit. I just remember this is before cell phones and with the exception of like the Zach Morris phones, we didn't have texting and all this stuff. So I just remember my mom, it was maybe, I don't know, the 10th of July, 11th of July, somewhere around there. My mom drove back from Charleston and she picked up Myers and I from my sister's house and she got us in the van and she basically just broke the news to us. July 9th, 1993, your father passed away. He's no longer with us. And I just remember her saying he's an angel. He's watching over you from here on out. He's not suffering. And it was hard for me to digest as an 11-year-old. Why? Like, why is this happening to me? Why is this happening to us? What do you mean I'm never going to talk to him or never going to see him again? And our life, just blink of an eye, it was just boom, so much change. It was overwhelming. We moved out of our house like instantly. We were in this little apartment and my mom is an amazing person. She's a warrior. She fought through it. She worked her butt off at work and she knew that we needed to get back towards our comfort zone, which was Lumberton, because we had friends and family there. Charleston Right after my dad died and we moved into that apartment, I was in a new school district, and I had to go to a new school. So I had all new friends, brand new school, and my father just passed away. It was too much for an 11-year-old. I was depressed. I was failing all my classes. It was just a dark moment for me. I was not happy. We moved to Lumberton. It was a glimmer of hope because I knew people there. I knew friends. We had family members there, and I was excited for it. And we get there, and it was great for the first, I don't know, maybe 2 years. But then, and there were still so many reminders of my dad in Lumberton because we had lived there before. We were living, down the street from the house we grew up with my father. And it really hurt to drive by there to see it or to go to certain places that I knew my dad and I had been to so many times. Well, Myers starts to have a downward spiral around that same time. I don't talk openly about this a whole lot, but it's something that was kind of hard. I was in denial about it when it first happened. She struggled. She was very depressed after losing my dad, and especially the more time went on and it started to set in with her, it really hit her that her dad wasn't going to be there anymore. Myers started hanging out with the wrong group of people. She started interacting with the wrong group of people, and one of the things that happened, she was sexually assaulted by somebody. And she talked to me about it. And I'm 13 years old. I'm 14 years old. I don't know what to do, who to talk to. She's confiding in me. She's telling me this is a secret. She started getting name called at school. She would go to school and people were spreading rumors about her. And it was really, really ugly stuff. She wouldn't get on the school bus because of being ridiculed and being name called. She would hide and let my mom think she was on the bus going to school, and she would hide out in the house. She was cutting school because she didn't want to endure the torment that she was getting from her peers. She started to have suicidal attempts, and I remember screaming at her, talking to her, trying to tell her, I didn't know how to handle it. I was scared. I was really scared. And this was just a lot for me to digest. And my mom was stressed out. Like I said, I can't commend her enough for how she handled everything. It was a lot. It was a lot when your husband's passed away and now your daughter is self-destructing. Myers started reverting to drugs and was hiding that. 14 years old. She's lost her dad. She's getting bullied at school. She's a victim of a sexual assault. My heart breaks still to this day, thinking like, could I have done more? What more could I have done? I'm already living with the guilt of my dad breathing in a paper bag and not doing something, not saying something. And now my sister is going through the struggle she's going through. Just talking to her, my mom, getting her the help she needed. Yes, there were a lot of ugly nights at our house. And there's some I just never want to relive. It was brutal times. And it was such a dark cloud that still hangs over that certain time period of my life. But Myers started to turn a corner, and she started to get better, and she started to mature. And she was getting to that point where she's like, you know what? I'm going to persevere through all this. I'm going to get through it. My mom meets this man, Alan Simmons. And for anybody out there who has ever encountered him in life, there is nobody better, including you listening to this right now, than Alan Simmons. That was probably the nicest, most genuine man to ever grace God's green earth. He was good for my mom. My mom needed someone like that. And I didn't see it at the moment because he's not my dad. I'm like, my dad got buried 5 years ago. How in the world can you move on? I was selfish. And Alan provided opportunity. He provided hope for us. He and my mom were going to get married, and the plan was to move us to Sumter, South Carolina. And one of the main reasons was to get Myers away from the torment, the ridicule, the bullying, the name calling. We had people drive by our house and Myers would be sitting outside on the porch and they would yell slut. They would yell whore, all these names to her. And I think my mom got tired of seeing her cry and get upset by it to people. And it was fresh. It was a fresh start for Myers. And she was excited. I, once again, was resistant, did not want to move. I'm so sick of moving, but yet we were going to do it again. Well, we go visit Sumter a couple of times. I still remember going to Leo's, having lunch with Alan. Myers is there. Alan takes us to the school. We visit Sumter High, and we go in there and we get our school IDs made. We are ready to go. We are all set for this move. We go back to Lumberton. A couple weeks later, we pack up. We start making the move. And the plan was on this Sunday, I believe it was the 24th of August, we were going to actually drive to Sumter and move everything. Well, the 23rd, Myers was like, oh, I want to go see Granddaddy. And our grandfather, Ed Bodenheimer, another one of the greatest men to ever walk the earth. Just such an amazing person. He and Myers had a really good relationship. Myers loved going down and just sitting down and talking to him and spending time with him. They would share stories about my dad. And I think Myers, that was therapeutic to her. So her and I go to Red Springs the morning of the 23rd. I believe it was the 23rd of August. We go down there and we see him. We drove 2 separate cars. Spent some time, went by the cemetery, took flowers to my dad. And I remember Myers driving off, heading back towards Lumberton. And I stuck back in Red Springs for just a little bit, waving goodbye to her, thinking, I'll see her tonight. Fast forward to that night, Myers and my mom and Myers and Kelly, I guess they gotten in a squabble about something. And Myers called me and we got on the phone and she starts telling me, she's like, yeah, I'm kind of having a disagreement with them. However, I'm super excited about this move. And it was nothing that bad. It was just a misunderstanding with them. But she told me on the phone, she's like, I'm excited. I'm so excited. I can't wait to get to Sumter High. She'd already met the band director. Like I said, we'd already had her photo taken. She was over the moon with excitement. And I was like, yeah, it's going to be good. And I'm starting to buy into it now because I see how excited she is. Well, we're about to get off the phone and she said, hey, we're closing this chapter. We're about to start a new one. You've been awesome. You've listened to me. You've been there when I feel like nobody else has. I just want to say I love you. And my sister and I weren't lovey-dovey. And, to me, it was gross. You don't tell your brother you love him. I said, hey, love you too. I'll see you tonight. Got off the phone. I go back to my grandmother's house and we were supposed to all spend the night there and then get up the next morning and make the move. Well, I'm upstairs asleep and I hear someone knocking on the door. I don't know if it's like 2 a.m. and it wakes me up. And I hear somebody talking to my mom about, Myers got in an accident. And I could hear little rumblings of what was happening, but I'm like, maybe they got in a car wreck. So I kind of go, I'm laying back down, but I can't sleep. Now my mind's up and running. My mom walks upstairs and turns the light on. I'm acting like I'm asleep. She wakes me up and, she says, hey, I got to talk to you. Myers got in an accident. And my mom just breaks down, shakes her head and is like, nope, Myers she's no longer with us. And my mom just lost it. And I lost it. And I'm thinking, what in the world? 5 years. Why? Within a 5-year span, I've lost my dad. I've lost my sister. And now I'm questioning everything. I'm questioning, what have I done? What is my mom like? Why is this happening to us? You question what you believe in. You question everything. This is not fair. I'm 16 years old. Why is this my life? I was filled with agony, grief, pain, sorrow, suffering. I mean, you name it, I was hurting. People came up to us and told us, I'm so sorry. I'm here for you. I appreciate every single one of those. I was just immune to it. I'd heard it not too long ago with my dad. Now I'm hearing it again with Myers. The next couple of days were just a blur. There was newspaper reporters going through our trash, and I thought that was weird, and I tried to stop them, and they started trying to interview me. It was on the newspaper, but basically what had happened is Myers and her boyfriend, they wanted to, spend that last little couple of minutes of time together. They drove out to Ocean Isle, North Carolina, and pulled off on a logging trail. And she had her headphones on, listening to music. She died from a gunshot wound to the head. And same with him. And when the cops arrived, her boyfriend was still breathing. Myers was dead. And it was hard. It was really, really hard. And I think the thing that it hit me the most was two people had left me that didn't really get a choice. It was just, they were taken from me. I struggled. I didn't know who to talk to. There was people when I first moved to Sumter that I would call on the phone that were back in Lumberton that I was friends with, and I would talk to these people, and they really have no idea still to this day how much they did for me and how much they helped me. We would talk about Myers. We would just talk about how I'm doing. And it helped. It helped me get out of that spot, because as soon as Myers died, we moved to Sumter. I'm back in a new school, brand new school. And I'm in high school. I'm in 11th grade at this point. And I pulled up to the high school. I remember the first day. This is a week after Myers had passed away. And I remember walking into the school, going to the front office to get my schedule. And, backtrack before that, while I'm sitting in my car, I hear Aerosmith. I Don't Want to Miss a Thing. That song had just come out, super popular at the time. And that was Myers' song. She loved that song. So I'm bawling. Clean myself up, go into the office. And when I walk in the office, on the screensavers on the computer, it was Myers' ID picture, in memory of. And I lost it again. And that's how I met my guidance counselor. Like I said, it was something that took me a long time to get over. Teresa and I, when we met, Teresa, my wife, we first started dating, and her birthday was June 23rd. Now, if you remember earlier in the story, that's the day my dad had his heart attack. So that was hard for me, because I actually, stood my wife up on a date for her birthday, because I was so stricken with grief still from losing my dad. And, but she's a blessing in disguise, because she helped me get out of that. Now I learned to celebrate June 23rd. I used to run from it. Now I celebrate it. Yeah, I see Becton, my youngest daughter. Every single attribute that she has in her body, every tendency she has, is Myers. She is Myers Bodenheimer right now. For the longest time, I struggled with the fact that Myers and my dad will never see my wedding day. They'll never see my girls. They'll never celebrate Christmas with us ever again, all these things. But I turned my agony, my grief, my pain, my sorrow, my suffering into a celebration, into joy, and hope. It's hope, because I got through it. I got out of it. I had people there to help me. I had people there just to talk to me, which was the biggest thing. I just needed someone to talk. And sometimes I needed somebody just to call and not say a word, and me just vent. And I'm here because of those people. I'm still here. I'm having a successful career in the Air Force because people took time to listen to me, and people took time to be there for me. I had no control losing my dad and my sister. That happened to my life. It was not something I had control of, but I got to that point where it's like, I can control what happens from here on out with me. Yeah, I didn't have them as long as I wanted, but it's going to sound kind of odd, but I still consider myself lucky. I'm grateful. I'm so grateful for the experiences I had with them. I didn't have them as long as I wanted, but I was blessed with the time that was given to me. My dad was only here for me for 11 years. My sister was only there for me for 14 years. But I still remember conversations my dad had. I still remember how he walks, his smell, his laugh, him taking time to spend with me. When he came home from work and he had every excuse to sit on the couch and relax, he made time for me. He made time for my sister. He is the bar for how I set all standards for how to be as a dad. And I still try to live up to that every day. I wouldn't be as good a father as I am if I didn't have him in my life. And I still remember every single thing about Myers because all I have to do is look at Becton. It's all I have to do. So I consider it a good life. Some people may listen to this and say that my heart breaks, that sucks. I just can't believe it. And I haven't stopped losing people. Alan Simmons, the greatest man to ever walk the face of the earth, he passed away. My grandmother has passed away. I've had grandparents pass away. I've had family members. It hasn't stopped. But I've learned to celebrate those chances I've had with those people, the time I've had with those people. And I think, there was a lot of self-reflecting that happened through all of this. And I had to really search for a purpose and as to why all this adversity was put in front of me. But I read something and it sums up pretty much how I feel. My life is not about me. My life is about helping everybody that I encounter, everybody that I touch, everybody that I get around. And we move so fast day in and day out in our lives. We never really stop and think about why we do the things we do. But I value mentoring others, helping others, especially those that I see that are hurting, that are suffering, that need that person just to listen to them. And I think I'm here today doing my purpose, fulfilling my purpose because of everything I went through with my dad and my sister. I really, honestly, and truly believe I wouldn't be the person I am if I had not encountered Charlie and Myers Bodenheimer. That is my story. I want to thank everybody for taking time to listen to it. I wanted to do this today on Myers' birthday because that's a celebration of her. She was an amazing person. And if you encountered her, if you interacted with her and you're listening to this, shoot me a message. Tell me what you remember about her. Same with my dad. What was it about my dad that really stood out to you? And celebrate their lives, because I haven't talked to them. We're getting close to 30 some years, but I still remember every conversation. I still remember how great they are. That's the power of what they did in that short amount of time. So just imagine what you can do to help people. And the last parting word I'll just say on here, you never know. You never know what somebody is going through. You may see someone and they seem like they're down in the dumps, and you don't want to have to deal with that today. So take time, be kind. Be there for each other, help each other out, because honest to God, you never know what someone is going through. And sometimes in life, you don't get a second chance. This is going to conclude this episode of Shadows Podcast. Thank you for allowing this. Thank you for allowing me as the host of this show to spend some time lending me your ear, allowing me to talk a little bit more about me. And also, for those of you who've never heard my story before, it kind of gives you an insight as to why this podcast exists. Thank you very much. Once again, check us out on Facebook at The Shadows Podcast, or head over to Instagram, follow us over there, _Shadows Podcast. That is all the time I got for this episode. I look forward to hearing your feedback, and check us out in 2 weeks when we drop another episode. Thank you very much.